We have a problem. Healthcare in America is a problem, a very expensive one. And it gets more and more expensive the older you get. One of the main costs that we spend our money on is healthcare and health insurance and health care and all the associated expenses that come with that. And it's a huge drain on our society and on us as individual households and families. We have a problem. And there's been a lot of solutions thrown out there, or potential solutions, as to how to fix this problem, but many of them have severe drawbacks. And I think most of them are missing one critical ingredient. So I want to welcome you today into a thought experiment. I want to share with you something that I've been thinking about, kind of off and on, a little bit here, a little bit there, just as something that I think is interesting and something I've never heard of anywhere else. And I've talked with it with a few people in person, a few clients, a few friends, and most other people seem to find it intriguing. And so I wanted to flush it out a little bit over a two-part episode this week and next week on what I think the problem is and a potential solution that I have not yet ever heard proposed. Now that might mean it's a very bad idea, and the reason that no one else has thought of it is because it's a horrible idea, would never work, could never be implemented, would be completely ineffectual. But I feel like it's a pretty good idea, and anyone I've ever talked to has also thought it was a pretty good idea and was worth exploring. So I want to roll through this with you, and I welcome your feedback. So if you go to the blog post for this episode at retirementorship.com/71, this is the 71st episode, there will be at the end of the article a comment section, and you can write a comment or a question or leave your thoughts on what I've proposed. They'll come to me. You don't have to include your email or name or anything if you don't want to. Just if you've got feedback on problems that you see or how to make it better or other good ideas that we could add to this idea for making healthcare better in America, for making it cheaper, more effective, then I would welcome that. And it would just be a fun kind of community exercise. And I'm not a very political person. I don't follow politics hardly at all. I tend to spend most of my time trying to control and influence the things I actually can control and influence instead of being pissed off at what the government's doing or what other people believe in. And so I don't follow a lot of that. I'm just going to be a disclaimer right there. And so some of the stuff may have been thrown out there by other people and people who know a lot more about politics and how actual laws are changed and implemented and how to get people to vote for things may have some helpful feedback on this, because I think that's the piece that's probably missing. But I want to share with you what the problem is and what I think a great solution could be, and maybe, just maybe, it might get implemented in some way, some fashion, and help improve our landscape. From someone who's not in the medical field, someone who's not in the health field, someone who's definitely not in the political field, but who understands the finances and the way that all these things affect individual families. It might be just an interesting perspective. So we want to cover the problem today, and then I'm going to introduce the potential solution, and then we'll flush out that solution, as well as implementation and objections and oppositions that I already see could be out there. And then I would love your feedback. Honestly, just like take a moment, jump in, especially after next week, give some feedback if you have any. And if I get enough recurring things or other comments or pushback that I think is helpful, we will just do a third one here, or even a bonus one, just to address some of those other things that you guys bring up. So I would love for this to be collaborative and more of a conversation, although granted, it's going to be somewhat one-sided. So the problem, we're an unhealthy nation, right? That's the problem. Healthcare, I don't even know what the exact numbers are. I didn't bother to look up all the exact facts because all the facts change depending on where you got them. But I think we can all agree that we're not a healthy nation. We've seen the percentages of people who are overweight and obese, the percentage of people who smoke and do other things, the percentage of people that die from other rare diseases, and the amount of money and the percentage of our GDP that we spend on healthcare and on health insurance and all these things. We see those numbers, right? They're thrown out there in news articles and other stories and books, and none of them look good. and we can compare it with other countries, and then, yeah, but they have this and they don't have that, and that's why this won't work here, even though it works there. And so there's all these conversations, and it all kind of centers around the fact that we're not healthy, and we've got a problem, and we need to fix it. And in my mind, anyways, lifestyle is the main culprit. We have a problem, and lifestyle is the main culprit. And I don't think a lot of people really want to say that or hear it. And, so much of the conversation around healthcare, health insurance is around, whether it's single payer or multi-payer, whether it's, coming through employers or individuals, where is that cost coming from? Is it because, people can't negotiate their own rates? Is it because doctors can't actually see what it costs for the things that they're prescribing? Is it because of this, that, and the other thing? Again, there's a lot of political pieces of that. And I'm not very political, so I would not be someone to ask, and I would not dare to add my 2 cents to something, because I only like to talk about things that I am an expert in. And so I'm definitely reaching here. This whole concept, again, is just a thought experiment of mine, but I'm not going to wade into all the political issues around healthcare and health insurance. But one thing that we have to all admit, I don't know how big it is, but we have to admit that lifestyle is a big contributor to this problem. Heart disease, stroke, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, all of these, the main killers in our country, let alone the main causes of chronic, expensive healthcare, are lifestyle issues. They're caused or made worse by excessive body fat, smoking, lethargy, just all kinds of different things that we do to ourselves. And I don't know much about the politics of it, but one of my other side passions is health and fitness, and I know a decent amount about nutrition. I would never claim to know nearly as much as an expert in nutrition or an expert in exercise, sports science, or exercise physiology, but I do a lot of reading and research into that. And when you know a lot about that, you cannot help but know that so much of this is lifestyle. We are eating and sitting our way to a very unhealthy country. And I think when it comes to the health insurance debate, when it comes to like single payer, or should the government should be from the government, and everyone is required to have it or not, and does everyone need it, and what about pre-existing conditions? A lot of these things, right, that have kind of been decided with the Affordable Care Act, although people are still mad about some of it. I don't know that anyone's mad necessarily about making sure that people have health insurance for the crazy accidents that happen, right? Nobody's mad about, what about the family where the little girl got cancer and it's costing them, $100,000, $200,000 to treat it, and they didn't have health insurance and it's bankrupting them, right? Or the rare disease that costs $10,000 a month just to keep it from killing someone, and they didn't have insurance. Like, no fault of their own. They didn't deserve it. Just came upon them. Those people need health insurance, right? We need to protect these people. We live in a very wealthy society. No one should have to be bankrupt for lack of just basic health care. And I don't think many people really at the core of it have a problem with that. I think what a lot of it comes down to, though, is why should we all be paying for other people's choices? And if people want to live unhealthy, and again, so for this episode and next episode, I'm going to throw out the words unhealthy and healthy a lot. And I just want to quick say that from now on, whenever I'm talking about healthy people, I'm talking about people who make healthy choices in their diet and exercise and control the things that you can control through a healthy lifestyle. And when I say unhealthy, I'm talking about people who make choices that lead to unhealth, that eat too many calories, eat too much sugar, too much carbs, don't exercise enough, don't sleep enough, whatever, right? So what I'm not talking about is people who have been made unhealthy because of cancer that they didn't ask for, or some rare disease, or people who are healthy just by accident because they were lucky enough to never get one of those. So just disclaimer, anytime we're talking about unhealthy and healthy people from now on, we're only talking in the senses of the parts we can control. And so lifestyle is a significant problem. And for sure, There's probably things we can do just to health insurance itself and the hospital industrial complex and all these other things to make healthcare cheaper. Because this is one of the other problems, right? Is that health insurance isn't healthcare. And a lot of the conversation is around health insurance and who pays for it and how do we make that cheaper. But that's not the same thing as healthcare. And certainly there's a lot of problems there, right? So like at the local hospital here, the main hospital, if you go in for treatment of just some basic thing and you can bill it to your insurance, that's fine. But if you pay cash, if you're a cash paying patient, there is a 59% discount for paying cash, 60% off. All right. So if you look at the other way, if like they're not losing money on cash payers. So if the cost of the actual treatment is X, that means to run it through insurance for all the administrative and all the layers that are in there, it costs 2.5 times more to run that through insurance than it does to actually have the treatment. And so, right, there's some problems in there. And I don't know enough about all those things to say what are those problems. But we can't continually just talk about health insurance when that's not even the same thing as health care. We want people to be healthy, not just find more ways to pay for insurance or alternative ways to pay for the insurance. Let's focus on health care, not on health insurance. And one of the other problems is that, for a lot of these things, the diseases are a lagging indicator, right? It takes many, many years of a bad habit before it shows up in your wallet. You don't get unhealthy the first time you eat ice cream. And I love ice cream, right? Or you don't get unhealthy by drinking a 12-pack of Pepsi. It's doing that over and over and over again for many years. And then eventually you have the heart attack. Eventually you have the stroke. Eventually you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And it's there's not that immediate, like, I do this and this is the result. It's I do this, nothing happens. I do this, nothing happens. I do this, nothing happens over and over and over again until something big and bad happens. And so when there's that much separation between the choices that we make for our health and the impact of those choices, in the same way, right, when you work out, you don't immediately lose 10 pounds. And when you eat a salad, you don't immediately have twice as much energy. Both of those things, good habits and bad habits, there's a long lag between when we do the act and when we see the results. And so that's part of the problem is people aren't incentivized to be healthy when it's hard to see the connection there. One of the other problems that I think are out there is that, with our current system, healthy people subsidize unhealthy people. There's no difference between if you choose healthy alternatives, healthy diets, if you exercise a lot, or if you decide you don't want to do any of those things. Everyone pays the same premiums based on your age and where you work and, how much your employer is paying. Like there's those things, right? Or how much of a premium tax credit you get if you're on Marketplace based on your location and income. But as far as health goes, there's no difference at all between what we pay for our health insurance if we're healthy or not. Even though some people are far, far more likely to need the care than others due to their lifestyle. The only exception to this is with smoking. A lot of health plans or group health plans will include, and I think Marketplace does this too, that if you're a smoker, you will pay more. But other than that, that's the only health thing that is. There's nothing for weight or cholesterol or high blood pressure or any of these other factors. They don't play into it. Which means that if we're all paying the same, healthy people are paying more than they should, and very unhealthy people are paying less than they should. And all of us average people are paying probably the right amount. And so if people who are making unhealthy choices don't have to pay anymore, if they're getting subsidized by those who are making healthy choices, that's a problem. There's no incentive to be healthy when someone else is subsidizing, is paying into you staying unhealthy. And you think about this, like, why? That's just not fair. Why should, the busy mom who's doing it all, and spending more and working harder to provide healthy food for her kids at home so that her kids can grow up healthy and be strong and not have to deal with all these things, and she and the family can be healthy. Why should they, in addition to paying more and spending more time to eat and be healthy, why should they also pay more for health insurance to subsidize the obese big pharma executive who doesn't care for himself, right? Who eats out all the time, smokes, drinks, hasn't eaten a salad in ever, and he's going to pay the same insurance rate as the people who are working diligently to try to be healthy, and that's a problem. And I think the biggest problem with all the health care and health insurance plans and all that stuff that we have now is there's no incentive at all in our health insurance to change. Basically none. Because you don't pay any more if you're unhealthy and you don't pay any less if you're healthy. And so why the incentives are just not there. Like, you will pay more for health care if you're unhealthy, right? You will go end up in the hospital more often and you have to pay your deductible more and all that. So there's some incentive, right? As long as we still have deductibles and copays, there will be some incentive. Some people are trying to do away with that, right? Just make everything free, no copays, no deductibles. Just go in there, get quote unquote free healthcare, right? With nothing at all. And if you do that, then you take away every single incentive for being healthy, because you can be as unhealthy as you want, go in as often as you want, get treatment for it, get things to manage it, but you have no incentive to be healthy when there's no additional cost to being unhealthy. So there's still we still have deductibles, copays that do it, but the premium is the same for everyone. And so there's little incentive on a month-to-month basis to be healthy when you're only going to see that cost difference maybe once every few years when you have a health event, or maybe not for 2 or 3 decades when all that unhealthy lifestyle finally catches up with you. So we have a problem. We're an unhealthy nation. Lifestyle is one of the main culprits. There's other problems, but that's definitely there. You cannot refute that. Health insurance isn't health care. We spend way too much time talking about health insurance instead of actually being healthy people. Diseases are a lagging indicator. We don't always see the direct connection between what we're doing and the eventual disease we get from what we're doing. Healthy people are subsidizing unhealthy people, and there's no incentive, little incentive to change that. If you're unhealthy, you don't pay any more for your premiums or for your treatments than if you're healthy. So those are some problems. Not an exhaustive list, just some things that I have been thinking through. And there's probably a million more problems, obviously, that you could relate to healthcare, but those are the ones I think relate to this proposed solution. So we have a problem. I don't want to just grouse about problems without offering a solution. So here's a solution that I think could work. We incentivize health, not insurance. We incentivize health, not insurance. So we're spending way too much time trying to incentivize health insurance, right? The Affordable Care Act tried to do some of these things. We want to try to mandate health insurance, which kind of backfired because it doesn't even matter if it's in your best interest or not. Americans don't like to be told what to do. And so that didn't go over so well anytime they had a mandate in it. And even a lot of the supporters right now, I've heard some of them that have looked back and like, yeah, that was not a good move. Even just calling out a mandate, that's just not good. Not just good, it's just not good politics. And later they got rid of that, but now they've tried to incentivize enrollment. They've done some things to make it cheaper, especially if you have lower income. It's become much more affordable, which is a good thing for a lot of people. But the incentives are all around getting health insurance. Everything that's out there that I can tell around health, all laws and everything that are out there around health are all geared towards incentivizing people to get health insurance or helping people get health insurance or making it more affordable to get health insurance. And nothing is on incentivizing people to get health. Get health, not health insurance. So that's the focus that we need to do. That should be our aim, our focus, our goal is incentivizing health, not health insurance. And so if that is our aim, then we need what I'm going to call the American Incentivized Medical Act, or the AIM Act. You got to name it something, right? They're always naming all these fancy plans something that people can say. And so that's what I came up with. The American Incentivized Medical Act, or the AIM Act. It's time to focus on the true problem and let's aim at better health, not more insurance. Someone with a poli-sci degree can probably come up with a better slogan than that, but there you go. So real quick, I want to talk about just the core tenets of the AIM Act in this plan, and then we'll review those quickly at the beginning of the next episode, and we'll go more into the benefits and some of the opposition that I think something like this would face. But I would love your feedback, and I'm just curious if me and the 10 people I've talked to about this are the only 11 people on earth that think this is a good idea, or if this is actually a good idea. Honestly, I would love thought experiment. Would love your feedback. Okay, so the two main tenets of the American Incentivized Medical Act is full coverage for non-lifestyle diseases and accidents, right? Because that's supposed to be what insurance is for. So I've always gotten high deductible health plans for as long as I've had a choice on what insurances I can get, because I spend a lot of time and energy and money trying to be healthy. So I don't want all my money going into health insurance. I want it going into my health. And so I always pick the lower premium, higher deductible options. But I've always had health insurance because it's stupid not to, right? Because if you have an accident, or if you get an unlucky draw and you get cancer or some other disease that's not directly linked to the lifestyle choices that we make, that's bad. And you don't want to rack up a couple $100,000 in medical bills for some accident or some accidental disease. All right, so we want full coverage for that. The amount of money that we spend on those things is actually not as high as you might think. So much of it is going to curing and managing lifestyle diseases. So we can cover those. That should not be a problem. So that's tenet number one. And that includes, right, no, you can't discriminate for pre-existing conditions. Not that they would ever bring that back. It's hard to imagine that ever being allowed again. Full coverage, obviously, for pregnancy and all these other things that are good things. So we want all of that, all non-lifestyle diseases, treatments, and I should throw in there not even just disease, right? Reproductive, health and care and giving birth and all these things should all be covered as well. I didn't really flush out all that, but all that stuff covered, right? Non-lifestyle things. And then it is underwritten for lifestyle. It is underwritten for lifestyle. That's the other big aspect of it. And this is what's completely different between this and what's currently out there for health insurance, is that we would bring in an underwriting system that's based on the life insurance underwriting system. That's kind of where I got the idea back when we used to do life insurance and disability insurance and whatnot. So if you haven't gotten it ever, then you won't know this. And if you have, you'll remember this, that the cost of life insurance, for example, is based on your age and your health. The older you are, the more expensive it gets, and the unhealthier you are, the more expensive it gets. And so they will do what's called underwriting to see how healthy you are. They know how old you are. It's on your driver's license. But they need to know how healthy you are. So they ask you a bunch of questions, and a lot of times they'll also do a paramedical exam, which is where someone will come out and ask you more questions, and they'll take your height and weight to get your BMI, and just you can learn a lot just from that, right? And they'll take a blood and urine sample. That way they can test for internal things, how much cholesterol, all these things, take your blood pressure, do a whole workup. And then based on that, you will get a health rating. And that health rating is determined by a bunch of factors. So you can have a few factors that are bad and still get an overall good or decent health rating. But if all of them are bad, you're obviously going to get a bad rating. And so the way that they rate that in health insurance, and I would just port this in life insurance, and I would port this right over into health insurance, is you get a standard rating, which is, hey, you have standard health, not a big deal. You can have preferred ratings, preferred and super preferred, or some companies call it ultra preferred, whatever. That's like you're healthier than most. You're healthier than average. You have really good health. All your health factors look really good. And then below standard, you can go the other way and get what in life insurance are called table ratings. And an A rating is a little bit worse. A B rating is worse than that. C rating is all the way down. I think it goes down to J. And so you'd port that right in as well. And so all these health factors would go into determining your health rating. And then your premium is based on your age and your health rating, just like it is in life insurance. And so the way I think that would work then is you could either get tested by a specific exam that's set up for it when you're getting health insurance, or you can just get your official test done when you're doing your annual physical with your primary health physician or a nurse, or something. Some obviously got to be a third party. You can't do it yourself, but some reputable third party that could then submit that to the powers that be. And so they'll do all this stuff. They'll get you a health rating, and then your health is based on that. If you do a rating and you like it, you can lock in a rate for X amount of years, but then eventually you need to go through underwriting again to make sure that you haven't become very unhealthy since then. As long as you're still healthy, you get to maintain that rate. Or if you get a bad rating at first, then, and here's the kicker, you can get healthier and decrease your premiums, right? Because if you are healthier, it will be cheaper for your healthcare, and so your health insurance premiums should be cheaper as well. And wouldn't that be something if you lost 10 pounds and you immediately saw $50 more in your paycheck because of it, because your health insurance went down? Or you lowered your cholesterol, and instead of getting nothing out of it, you all of a sudden started getting $100 a month because of that. Wouldn't that be a little incentivizing? So there's some things to this, right? If we stopped incentivizing health insurance and instead incentivized health care and just general health, how might that change things? So there's lots of benefits to it, and I want to jump into that next week. So we'll go over this again in the benefits, and then we'll go into some of the problems. If you have problems that you're thinking of already, I may have thought of them already, so hang tight. But then after that, I would love your feedback on the American Incentivized Medical Act and the whole idea of underwritten health insurance. And maybe something will come of it, or maybe at the end of all this, after all the comments, I'll just pull these episodes because I'll realize that it's the dumbest idea in the world. So we'll see. But that's all for this week. We'll be back next week with some of the benefits of incentivized medical care and the drawbacks as I see them. We'll see you next week.
If you enjoyed that, you would love being part of our free membership community. It's called Retire Membership, and it has a host of benefits, all for free. For example, you can always buy my book, 3D Retirement Income, on Amazon. But if you join us at Retire Membership, we will send you either a hard copy or paperback for free, provide the ebook and the audiobook so that you can listen to it if you don't have time to read it. In addition to that, we'll also provide you with a bunch of content that you can't get anywhere else. For example, we have our quarterly Retire Mentorship magazine, which comes out quarterly and has no ads whatsoever. It's just timely content to help you stay the course. We also have workbooks for our free online workshop to help you get the most out of those, flowcharts to help you make better decisions, and a weekly email to provide timely content that you can unsubscribe from at any time. We never ask for any payment information, and we never share your information with anyone else. We just want to provide timely content and help you stay the course to retire successfully and stay successfully retired. There's no reason to wait, so join us now at retiremembership.com, or you can click in the link in the description and it'll go right there. We can't wait to see you in the community. Cheers. This podcast is educational only and is not investment, tax, or legal advice.